When you start a campaign, it's not always very easy to know or predict where it's going to end up. When I started studying hedgehogs almost 35 years ago, I really didn't imagine that this would end up as a lifelong passion, which has just absorbed every aspect of my time, it feels like. But the thing that has kept me going with in sometimes almost the apparently trivial world of the hedgehog is that people love hedgehogs. People are drawn to hedgehogs. It's quite easy for an opportunity to engage in any sort of conversation about complex ecological issues if you start it with hedgehogs. So it's worth persevering. You find your way into the campaigning world and you go for it. For me, it was the realization that the nation's most popular wild animal, and I know that the ornithologists out there will complain about this, but the truth of the matter is every time there's a vote or a poll, the hedgehog always wins the nation's favourite wild animal or nature icon. So we've got the nation's favourite animal suffering catastrophic population declines. Now, we know with a degree of robustness that the population is down by 50% in rural areas and 30% in urban areas just since the turn of the century. And if we take this back a little bit further, the Mammal Society suggests a population decline of around 60% since the mid-1990s. Now, I've done hundreds of talks over the years to the Women's Institute, to the Towns Women's Guild, to the University of the Third Age, to Probus lunches, to gardening clubs. And normally these are populated with an audience of people who, when I began doing the talks, all felt like they were quite old. Now I'm beginning to realise that actually they're much more my age anyway. But it's given me a perspective over time, being able to talk to people, get anecdotal stuff, anecdata as it's delightfully known, looking at how people perceive population changes and the dramatic difference in hedgehog numbers over the last 50, 60, 70 years is all too apparent when you start to dig down and ask people questions. So I think it's not unreasonable to suggest that hedgehog numbers are down by between 90 and 95% since the end of the Second World War. So a campaign is needed. I work with the Hedgehog Street Campaign, which is the coalition of the People's Trust for Endangered Species and the British Hedgehog Preservation Society. But on my own, I set up a petition through change.org, very trivial to begin with, calling for all new housing developments to come with hedgehog highways built in as standard. I was almost embarrassed to ask for such a small thing, but change.org/save our hedgehogs took off, and suddenly more and more people were hearing about it. My updates were suddenly going out to 100,000 people, then to 500,000 people, and then I met the housing minister, and then we had a moment of political change, and the late and sadly missed James Brokenshire, who was then Secretary of State, put in a change to the National Planning Policy Framework, which called for all new housing developments to come with hedgehog highways, little 13 centimetre square holes to allow hedgehogs to move between gardens, because one of the biggest threats that hedgehogs face is habitat fragmentation. Now, unfortunately, this is only guidance. It doesn't come with any teeth, so I've kept my campaign going. The petition is now at over 1 million signatures strong and is a really good opportunity to keep prodding not only developers but also government to try and get them to do the right thing for hedgehogs. And whilst, again, is it trivial just to be doing something for a small little furry, prickly mammal? It may seem so, but actually it's also really significant, because once you've started doing things for hedgehogs, you're inadvertently doing things for all sorts of other wildlife too. So I'm a big fan in getting out there and doing something which might seem small, but actually may have really big repercussions. So whatever your campaigning zeal might drive you towards, try and see the bigger picture. Try and embrace the wider environmental, ecological issues there are there. And mainly, just keep going. Keep going. Persistent campaigning can really bear fruit. Good luck.